I met Daniel when I was 24, fresh out of college, filled with big dreams and a soft heart. He was everything I thought I wanted. Confident, ambitious, with a smile that could melt stone. For 3 years, we were inseparable. People used to say we looked like the kind of couple that ends up on engagement cards, always laughing, always together. But behind closed doors, things were complicated. Daniel was never cruel, but he was distant. He didn't open up easily. Every time I tried to talk about feelings or the future, he brushed it off with a joke or changed the subject. "Let's just enjoy what we have," he'd say, and for a while, I believed that was enough. I kept hoping that with time, he'd change. That one day he'd wake up and realize I was the one he wanted to build a life with. But the truth is, you can't love someone into loving you the way you need. After 3 years, I found myself feeling more alone than I ever had. I started questioning if I was waiting for a version of him that didn't exist. So, one cold Thursday evening, over coffee in a small, quiet cafe, I told him I couldn't do it anymore, that I needed more, that I deserved more. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in a long while. I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes, a softness, maybe even regret. I braced myself for the part where he'd tell me not to go, that he'd try, that he'd fight for me. Instead, he nodded slowly, took a sip of his coffee, reached into his wallet, and paid for both of us. Then he said, "Take care of yourself," stood up, and walked out. No drama, no begging, not even a single "why." I sat there stunned. I kept replaying the moment over and over again in my head. I was sure he'd text, call, show up at my apartment, try to convince me to stay. But he didn't. Weeks passed, then months. Silence. At first, I was hurt. Angry. How could 3 years mean so little to someone? How could he not even try? But over time, I started to understand. Daniel didn't leave because he didn't care. He left because he knew he couldn't be the man I needed him to be. And maybe, in his own quiet way, that was his version of love, letting me go without making promises he couldn't keep. It's been over a year now. I've grown. I've healed. I still think about him sometimes, in the quiet moments. But I no longer wait for the text that never comes. I no longer hope for the knock on the door that isn't coming. I chose myself that day. And for the first time in a long time, I'm finally at peace with that.